Need to ask you something before we start. Have you ever loved someone so completely that when they disappeared, no call, no message, no explanation, a part of you genuinely didn't know how to keep being a person? Zara had that love, and she survived losing it. She did the work. She healed. She found someone new, someone steady, someone real, someone who actually showed up. And on the morning of her wedding, with the flowers arranged and the dress on, and 37 people waiting in white chairs, the man who broke her walked through the door, and he had something to say. This is that story.
Zara Okafor was not the kind of woman who believed in soulmates. She was too practical for that, a secondary school science teacher who graded by rubric and planned her weeks on a shared calendar. She believed in evidence, in patterns, in things that could be tested and proven. And then she met Daniel. They met at a mutual friend's birthday party. She'd been dragged there by Priya, who had promised it would be low-key and delivered 30 people in a 2-bedroom flat. She'd been standing near the kitchen with a glass of wine she didn't want, calculating how long she needed to stay before she could leave without being rude, and he'd appeared beside her and said, very quietly, "I'm also doing the maths on this."
Zara looks sideways at him. First impression, something clicks. I've got 11 minutes left. I'm going at 9:42. I'll go at 9:43, just so it's not suspicious. They stayed until midnight. What followed was 18 months of the kind of relationship that rewires you. It wasn't perfect. Daniel was sometimes distant, sometimes too in his own head, prone to going quiet for a day or two before resurfacing warmer than ever. But he was also the person who drove 40 minutes to her school when she had a panic attack during a staff meeting, who learned her coffee order on their third date and never forgot it, who left voice notes instead of texts because he said he wanted her to hear how he meant things.
I just wanted to say I had a really good time on Saturday. You were just really you, and I liked it. I like you. Okay, that's all. Okay, bye. She saved every single one, 47 voice notes over 18 months. She'd go back and listen to them sometimes when she missed him.
And then, on a Tuesday in October, he was gone. It didn't happen dramatically. That's the thing about ghosting that nobody warns you about. There's no scene, no argument, no door slamming, just a silence that gets heavier every day until you finally understand that it's not a pause, it's the end. Zara's flat, evening. She sends a text, checks it again. The blue ticks appear. Read. No reply.
He read her last message on a Tuesday night. That was the last confirmed proof of life she had. She waited 24 hours before texting again, then another 24. She called once. It rang out. She called again 2 days later. Voicemail. She left a message that she would later describe to Priya as extremely dignified, and to herself, late at night, as devastating. Hey, it's me. I'm not calling to make this weird. I just want to know if you're okay. That's genuinely all. You don't have to explain anything right now. Just let me know you're okay. Okay. Bye.
He never called back. He never texted. He unfollowed her on Instagram on day 12. She only noticed because Priya spotted it. And that small, deliberate action was the only communication she received. An unfollow. After 18 months. After 47 voice notes. After the panic attack in the staff room. You need to eat something. I had a biscuit. A biscuit is not... I know what a biscuit is, Priya. Do you want to talk about it? Not yet. Okay, I'll be on the sofa. Priya slept on Zara's sofa for the first 5 nights. She didn't ask questions. She just appeared every evening with food that required no cooking and stayed until Zara's breathing evened out. That's the kind of friend Priya was, the kind you don't deserve but hold on to for life. By week 3, Zara had a working theory. She had imagined it. Not the relationship, the depth of it.
She had read more into it than was there. She had made it into something it was never meant to be, and Daniel had simply not known how to tell her that.
The theory was painful, but it was more bearable than the alternative, which was that everything had been real, and he had chosen to leave it, to leave her, without a single word. She stopped waiting at week 6. She deleted his number, archived their photos, and boxed up the small things he'd left at her flat: a book, a phone charger, a gray hoodie that still smelled like him. She put the box under her bed instead of throwing it away, which was all the honesty she was capable of at the time. By month 3, she could get through a full day without thinking about him more than twice. By month 5, she agreed to go on a date. Priya's doing. A friend of a colleague, an architect named Miles, who was 32, calm, and described by Priya as the kind of man who owns an umbrella and actually has it with him when it rains.
This tells me you teach science. What year group? You're 9 and 10 mostly, 13 and 14-year-olds. That sounds genuinely chaotic. It's relentless. I love it. What do you love about it? She pauses. Most people don't ask the follow-up. She looks at him. The moment when something clicks for them, when you can actually see it happen in their face. You can't fake that. It's the best thing. Yeah, I can imagine. She got home at 11 p.m. and texted Priya. He asked the follow-up question. Priya replied, "Marry him." She laughed. She didn't think Priya was serious. At that point, neither of them knew she would. Miles Adeyemi was not the most exciting person Zara had ever dated. He was better than that. He was consistent. He texted when he said he would, showed up when he'd show up, and had the unusual quality of meaning what he said and saying what he meant. After Daniel, after the silence, after the unfollow, after 6 months of trying to rebuild a sense of reality, consistency felt like the most romantic thing in the world. They were together for 14 months before he proposed. He did it on a Sunday morning in her kitchen while she was making toast, in yesterday's clothes with no makeup on. He didn't get on one knee. He pulled the ring out of his dressing gown pocket and placed it on the counter between them. I've been carrying this for 3 weeks waiting for the right moment, but I don't think I actually want a right moment. I want this moment. You making toast on a Sunday. This is the thing I want more of. Will you marry me? Priya cried on the phone for 11 minutes when Zara told her. Ruth, Zara's mother, cried for considerably longer and then immediately began sending Pinterest boards. The wedding was planned for the following June. Small, intimate, 37 guests at a converted barn in the countryside, exactly what Zara wanted. She did not think about Daniel often by this point. He had become what exes eventually become when you heal properly. Not a wound, not a ghost, just a chapter with a lesson in it. The lesson, she thought, was that some people are practice. They teach you what you need before you find what you're actually meant to have. That was what she told herself. That was the story she'd made it into. And it was working. And then, 4 days before the wedding, Priya called. I need to tell you something and I need you to stay calm. That is the least calming sentence in the English language. I know, I'm sorry. I got a message today. From Daniel. From Daniel? He's asking how you are. He said he knows about the wedding. How does he know about the wedding? I don't know. I didn't tell him. Zara, he asked if he could speak to you. I told him absolutely not. But I thought you should know he reached out. Block him. Already done. She didn't tell Miles. She told herself there was nothing to tell. An old ex had sent a message to her friend. She'd had it shut down. It was over. She told herself she wasn't bothered. She made herself a cup of tea and went to bed and lay awake until 3 a.m, not being bothered. The morning of the wedding was everything she'd imagined. June light through the barn windows, wildflowers, Priya doing her makeup with the focused attention of a surgeon, Ruth crying quietly in the corner and pretending she wasn't. The dress, ivory, simple, with a low back, fitting exactly as it had at the final fitting. Everything was exactly right. I genuinely cannot. I'm going to cry again. You said you'd hold it together.
I'm holding it. These are held tears. My baby. You look like your grandmother on her wedding day. Mom, I know, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. She was not absolutely fine. Neither was Zara, if she was honest. Not because of doubt, not about Miles, not about this, but because happiness of this size has its own kind of weight. Because standing at the edge of the life you chose and realizing it's actually real is a feeling that doesn't have a simpler name. It was 20 minutes before the ceremony when the venue coordinator knocked on the door. Her face was professionally neutral in the way that faces are when they are trying very hard to be.
Miss Okafor, there's a man at the entrance asking for you. He doesn't have an invitation. He says his name was Daniel. He says you'll know who he is. The room goes still. Priya's brush stops. Ruth looks up. Everyone looks at Zara. Zara's face doesn't move for 3 full seconds. To Priya, very quietly. Did you? No, I swear to you, I don't know how he's here. To the coordinator. Tell him to leave.
I did. He says he'll leave immediately after. He just needs 5 minutes. He says he has something to tell you that you deserve to hear before today. Those are his exact words. Zara, don't. Mom, that man doesn't deserve 5 seconds of this day, let alone 5 minutes. I know. She looks at herself in the mirror, at the dress, at the woman she has become in the 2 years since he disappeared. 5 minutes. Outside. I come back in, and we proceed on schedule.
He was standing near a hedge at the side of the venue. He was wearing a suit. Not for a wedding, just a suit. Like he dressed up to have the hardest conversation of his life, and had done it without quite knowing what to wear. He looked older. He looked like someone who had not been sleeping. Outside the venue, sunshine. In the distance, through the barn doors, the sound of guests being seated. Zara stands 5 feet from Daniel. She does not move toward him. You have 5 minutes.
I know, thank you. I know this is...
4 minutes 55.
I left because my mom was dying.
She'd been diagnosed stage 3, 6 months before I disappeared. I didn't tell anyone because she asked me not to. She didn't want people to know, didn't want it to change how people treated her. I was the only one who knew. And when it got bad, at the end, she needed me there. Constantly. I moved back home and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to say it without saying it. And she'd made me promise. And I was terrified of losing her, and I handled it by not handling anything. I just went. And I have known every day since that what I did to you was wrong, that you deserved an explanation, and I didn't give you one. And I've carried that. Zara is very still. She does not look away from him. When did she die?
4 months after I left. December. I'm sorry. Don't. Zara, you don't have to. I'm sorry that happened to you. I mean that. I should have told you. I know I should have told you, but I also came here because I owe you the truth. Not because I'm asking for anything. I needed you to know that it wasn't because of you. It was never because of you. You were the best thing I had. I just didn't know how to hold both things at once. A long silence. The sound of a string quartet starting up inside the barn.
Is that everything?
No. I still love you. I think I've loved you the whole time, and I know I have no right to say that to you today. I know it doesn't change anything, and it shouldn't, but I couldn't let you walk into this without knowing it. That's all. That's all I came to say. Zara looks at him for a long moment. Then she straightens. Carol was a wonderful woman. She made the best jollof I've ever had at anyone else's house. I'm glad she wasn't in pain. I'm glad you were with her. Zara. And I needed to hear that. I did. I've spent 2 years wondering if I was the problem, so thank you for telling me. She takes 1 step toward him, then stops. But Daniel, Miles didn't ghost me. Miles shows up.
Miles has been showing up every single day for 14 months, and he has never once made me feel like I wasn't worth an explanation. I love him. I genuinely love him. And in about 12 minutes, I'm going to walk down that aisle and marry him. I hope you find someone who lets you be that honest with them from the beginning. You deserve that. I mean that too. She walks back toward the barn. She does not look back. She does not run. Later, she would try to explain to Priya how she felt in those 12 minutes between walking away from Daniel and walking down the aisle toward Miles. She couldn't find the right word. Not relief, exactly. Not triumph. Something quieter than both. Like a door closing.
Properly. Finally in a room she'd left the light on in for 2 years. The ceremony was everything she'd wanted. Ruth held it together until the vows, then stopped holding it together entirely. Priya, as maid of honor, executed her responsibilities with professional precision and only visibly cried twice. 37 people watched Zara Okafor walk down an aisle laid with eucalyptus and wildflowers, and of those 37 people, not one of them knew what had happened outside 20 minutes earlier. The aisle, warm light, string quartet. Miles at the end, he sees her, and the look on his face is not composed. He is trying to hold it together and failing beautifully. Miles saw her come through the barn doors, and his face did the thing it always did, that unguarded, specific, slightly helpless expression that meant he was feeling too much to perform. She had always loved him most in those moments, the moments when he didn't try to manage it. You look, I don't have words. You're crying. I'm absolutely not. You really are. These are held tears.
She laughed out loud. 37 guests laughed with her. The officiant, who had done 200 weddings and thought he'd seen everything, made a small note to tell his wife about this one. The vows were not long. They had written them together at the kitchen table, 3 Sundays before the wedding, with tea and biscuits and occasional arguments about word choice that were really just excuses to sit close together and work on something that mattered. Miles had wanted to memorize his. He did not quite manage this. He read from a piece of folded paper he pulled from his jacket pocket, and his voice only broke once. I have never been interested in grand gestures. I think love is mostly small decisions. Showing up, telling the truth, choosing the same person again when things are hard. I want to make those decisions with you. Every day. For as long as you'll let me. I love you, Zara. On every ordinary Sunday. That's the promise. Ruth breaks. Completely. Priya hands her a tissue without looking. And Zara stood there in the light of a June afternoon with the flowers and the music and the 37 people who loved them. And she said, yes.
She told Miles about Daniel that evening, in the hotel room after the reception, still in the dress. She sat on the bed and she told him all of it. The appearance, the 5 minutes, what Daniel had said, what she had said back. She didn't leave anything out. Miles listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. That must have been a lot, to carry that through the ceremony. It was, but I want you to know there was never a choice to make. I don't want you to think there was a choice. I believe you. Just like that, you came back. You walked down that aisle and you looked at me like I was the whole point. I'm not going to spend my wedding night interrogating that. She looks at him for a long moment. I deleted 47 voice notes, when I finally got over him. It was the hardest thing I had to do. I'll make you new ones, better ones. She laughs. She leans her head on his shoulder. I don't know what happened to Daniel after he walked away from that hedge. I hope Carol's memory was a kindness to him in the end. I hope he found someone he could be fully honest with, the way grief sometimes teaches you to be when it's done with you. What I know is this. Sarah had been a woman who believed in evidence, and she had all of it now. 14 months of it. A Sunday morning proposal over toast, held tears on a wedding day, a husband who, when she told him the hardest thing, said, "I believe you." Some chapters close the way they should, not with drama, not with a door slam. Just a woman walking forward into the light, choosing the person who chose her back. Zara and Miles on the dance floor, late in the evening. The barn lights warm and low. She says something close to his ear. He tips his head back and laughs.